So this is a little half square cutting tutorial, and if you click the link below you will get this cheat sheet where I'm going to go over all the math for the different kinds of half square triangles that you can do. And first you'll see on the cheat sheet what I have labeled 2 square, and what that means is that by having 2 different pieces of square fabric it will give you 2 half square triangles. 4 square means that your 2 pieces of fabric will give you 4 half square triangles, and 8 square means that your 2 pieces of fabric will give you 8 half square triangles. So just to show you, I've done a little sewing and cutting beforehand, but to start I'm going to show you how to mark your fabric. So we've got a square here at 6.5 inches by 6.5 inches, and I'm going to bring my large ruler, and it depends which size you're going to do. If you're doing a 2 square, you just draw 1 diagonal line. If you're doing a 4 or 8 square, you're going to draw an X, so 2 diagonal lines. So I'll just draw 1 diagonal line just to show you. But I bring the ruler to this corner right here and to the other corner there, and match it up as closely to perfect as you can. Hold it down pretty tight, and then I just use a mechanical pencil because it's always sharp, and I just draw a little line and move it away, and there it is. Now I've already done the sewing like I said, but before you do sewing you're going to want to take your piece of square that you've drawn on and another fabric and place them right sides together. So that means that if the fabric, let's say this is it, that this is the front of the fabric that you want showing on your quilt, that's the right side, and then this would be the right side. So you're going to place them together like that. And then you want to use some pins and pin your fabric in place. So you can see here for the 2 square, I put a pin here and a pin here. For the 4 square, I put the pins here, and the 8 square, I moved them out just a touch. So for the 2 square, you have the drawn line, and you're going to sew a 1/4 inch away from that drawn line on both sides. For the 4 square, this one's a little different. You are going to sew a 1/4 inch along the border of the square. And then for the 8 square, you're going to draw, well, you have the drawn lines, but you're going to sew a 1/4 inch away from both of the drawn lines. So I'll sew this way, turn it, sew this way, cut the string, then turn and sew this way, and sew this way. Now we're ready to cut. So we'll start with the 2 square. Move this stuff aside. So this part, you're going to get your rotary cutter, and you are going to cut along the drawn line. And then you take out your pins and you're ready to press. So depending, usually you want to press towards the darker fabric. So that means that your seams are going to go this way. And I kind of finger press it first. That way you can really just press. That means you just hold the iron down. You don't move it along. Moving it like this will kind of warp your fabric a bit. So you just want to press it. And then you'll see that you have these little dog ears. So I do my ruler, and you just trim that off. Now, generally on my little cheat sheet that I gave you, I have the finished size. That means when your quilt is all sewn together, what size your half square triangle is going to be. The cut squares, so let's say for example you want a 4-inch finished size half square triangle. You'll cut your square to be 4 7/8 inch. And then squaring up, that's at this point right here, you're gonna want 4.5 inches. So if that's the case, I love the Creative Grids ruler because it has that diagonal line down the middle. So you bring your ruler, find 4.5. This one is marked 4.5, 4.5, 4.5. So line it up to 4.5 inches, and obviously this is a lot bigger. I started with, we can just do 5.5 for this one, just to show you. So I'm gonna line up as best I can that line right down the middle of the ruler, the 5.5 line on this side, 5.5 line on that side, and trim the rest. So on that cheat sheet, I gave enough wiggle room so that you can trim down every one of your half square triangles. The key for me, for perfect half square triangles, is giving enough wiggle room that you can trim down, because generally my half square triangles are not perfect right off the bat. So that's why on this sheet I've given you a little extra fabric so that you can trim it down to be just the right size. And you do that with both sides of your half square triangle. So that's the 2 square. The 4 square, that's where you have sewn along the border of your half square triangle. You're going to do the same thing, just trim, and I'm gonna pull the pins out before I do the trimming here, or the cutting rather. So I pull the pins out, and I'm gonna bring my ruler and cut on the drawn lines. So line up the ruler. And again, because of the little wiggle room that you have, if it's not 100% accurate, that's okay. And generally I like to not move, move the piece that I'm trimming for a little more accuracy, but because of the space that I'm working in right now for filming, it's a little bit more cramped and I can't move around as much as I'd like. Okay. And then you would continue the same. You would see this has given you 4 half square triangles. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I've started with 6.5 inch square for all of these examples, so you'll see that they're gonna get smaller and smaller because this one makes 4, the next one makes 8, so they're gonna be cute little teeny half square triangles. So this is the same. Trim those, press it, and then square it down to the size that you need. So there's your 4 half square triangles. And now is the 8. So with the 8, I'm gonna pull the pins out. And this one I really try not to move while I'm doing the cutting. But again, I might have to a little bit just because of the space that I'm in for filming. But you start off just as you did the last one. You're gonna cut along the drawn lines. We'll see if I can get away with not moving anything. Did move a touch, so I'm gonna scooch it back. And here we go. So that right there would give you actually nothing. You can't open this. It's like a little pocket. So at this point, what you're gonna do is cut in both directions, horizontal and vertical, right down the middle. And actually, what I'd like to do is line this up on these squares so that on the grid of my ruler, so that I can see if I'm cutting a straight line, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so I've lined this up along a straight line, this along a line. This is pretty straight. Okay, so now when I go down the middle, I can see that I'm on that dotted line. So on the top and the bottom, I'm gonna keep it on that dotted line to make sure that I'm cutting. And actually it's not quite in the middle, so I'm gonna scoot it over. And I can just see with the ruler, make sure that I'm making a straight line. Okay, there we go. Cut there, and now we will go vertical. And I see the lines that I'm going to line up. It's again that quarter line on both sides. Make sure the ruler is lined up with the line on the cutting mat. Go ahead and cut it. And now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cute little half square triangles. Now with my 8 half square triangles, the magic of this really comes in the ruler. So this is Quilt in a Day, and it comes, oops, a daisy. It comes in this little package, and it's really awesome. It's kind of my secret to making perfect half square triangles. But she gives you the math, and I have the math on my half square triangle sheet, but what you really need is the ruler to help you with this next step. So before you open your triangles, your half square triangles, you'll see what size you need to trim to get the perfect half square triangle. And the math always allows some wiggle room. So let's just say I'm gonna go to use the 2.5 inch. That's the size that I need. So I'm gonna find my sewn seam and I'm going to line that up with the 2.5 inch. So I'm not gonna line up the edge, it's gonna be the sewn seam. So let me set that down and show you. So the sewn seam is lining up with the 2.5 line, and you can see that there's extra fabric on the outside. That's perfect because these are a little too close for comfort. Because it gives you enough room to trim. And then you've got this cute little half square triangle. And again, I trimmed the dog ears off. And then we're going to press it. Bring my pressing mat and iron and hold it down. And as you can tell, I usually do the front and the back while pressing. I just like to make sure I'm really pressed. So there you are. It's got the perfect line down the middle and the squares on the side. So like I mentioned before, just click and you can get this cheat sheet on your half square triangles. It will show you if you want to make 2 at a time, 4 at a time, or 8 at a time, what size to cut your squares, where to draw, where to cut, all done for you, taking the math and the headache away for you. So if you have any questions, please reach out. I'm happy to help, and I hope that you have fun sewing your half square triangles.